Hello Leeds, I hope you're all well and you're enjoying the summer. This week's guest is Vic Bingham and she joins me to tell me all about how and why she got into stand-up comedy. She's a great guest and I think that you're going to enjoy our conversation. Enjoy! On this episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Vic Bingham who's come to join me. Hello Vic.
Hi Hazel.
Thank you so very much for giving up some of your time to speak to me. Vic, you are a stand-up comedian. How on earth did that come about?
Oh, do you want the long version or the short version?
The long version.
So it's a bit weird. I'm still very much an imposter syndrome person. I think, no matter how much stand-up I do, I'm like, I am a stand-up comedian, but because you don't do it for a job, it's always weird to hear. But yeah, I always was told that I was the funny one in the groups, and something that I always wanted to do, and it was actually a mental breakdown that led to it, which you will find with a lot of comedians. That's the route that they take into comedy. It seems to be a good alignment.
Like you get to the bottom of despair and then you sort of looking for the funny in things, maybe?
Yeah, you can't afford therapy, so that's cheaper to get on stage and just moan at people and see if they agree with you and get some validation. But no, I mean, I make light of that. It was a dark time, but that's how I use comedy throughout my whole life. A lot of my family are funny, so I've never been, there's always banter, there's always wit back and forth, and so I just grew up with it, and always did the acting side of things. I used to play comedic characters, but that's what I studied up to university when I moved down to London for uni. And no matter how dark the times were in our lives or families, when people pass away and things like that, it was always comedy that got us through it. We always found the funny in stuff. And for some people, it can be a bit shocking in certain situations. But for us, we just know it's coming from a good place, a kind heart generally. And I think it's such an underrated tool, comedy, even in work. My day job is in a bank, well, for a bank. And, we do all these communication styles and techniques, and comedy never comes into it. I'll make jokes at the beginning of a meeting because it sets everyone off at ease. Mm-hmm. It sets everyone at ease, and then the communication opens up more. So I've always loved comedy I love making people laugh. I love seeing their little dopamine fixes, because I know how important they are to me in this crazy journey we call life. So to cut down more into how I got into it, just before lockdown, I moved to London when I was 18. And just before lockdown, I split up with my partner, who I'd been with since I was 19, and I'm now 35. So a good sort of 12-year relationship. It was a fine breakup, and not a horrible one. But I moved back to Leeds just for a couple of months. Thought I'll get my life together. My whole family's in Leeds, born and bred. Really, I'm the main one that moved out of here. I'll go back, get my life together, and then I'll move back down to London. We make plans and God laughs, as they say. Came up, obviously lockdown happened. Just before that, my brother was suffering with mental health issues, and unfortunately we lost him to the battle with mental health.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, I thank you. I do talk about it quite openly, because if it taught me anything, it's about talking about it openly. And he could find the funny in anything at all. And he was really, really funny, and we used to bounce off of each other. And I just everything just hit me at once. All these big life changes. And I think when you get to that horrible feeling, I've always suffered with mental health, with depression and anxiety, but when you get to that horrible feeling where you think you know what rock bottom is, and then the floor falls out underneath you, and there's a new level that you're like, oh my God, like a boss level in a game that you're like,
yeah,
didn't even know this was here. And in all honesty, that is a horrible time in anyone's life. We all go through those things for different reasons. You can never reason with mental health. But what I thought is, do you know what? When you sort of stop caring about a lot of things through depression, which is a horrible thing, I thought, how can I utilize this? Because a lot of fear has been taken away. I want to make the most of my life. It blinks when I go through it. What have I always wanted to do? So I came back to, what do I enjoy? What do I want to do? And I look back to all the acting and things like that I did, and I still do bits of acting, and it was stand up, like making jokes and making people laugh and watching comedians that were so funny but also had messages, or societal messages in there, or we're making statements about things, laughing at them, but with meaning behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not necessarily political or anything, or some of those types of things, but just exposing the little idiosyncrasies in humanity with little touches, things like that, even if it's through silliness. And and so just before proper second lockdown hit, I booked a 5-day stand-up course in Brighton, and I went down to Brighton and did it. Came back up to Leeds and thought, well, what do I do now with this? Where do I go with it? And so started to look up nights in Leeds, and was so shocked to find the amount of them that are around Leeds. It's so rife with brilliant comedians and top nights that you can take part in. And so I thought, I'll go. I didn't have many friends in Leeds, only a few from high school. Everybody else had moved out. And I thought, I'll go on my own to Seven Arts in Chapel Allerton, because there was a show there once a month by a gentleman called Paul Silky White. And he had some very professional comedians on there, in terms of people who'd been on the TV or who you'll know from various shows. And he always did 2 new spots in the middle. And so I went along, just thought, go, keep my head down, watch the show, have a laugh, move on. And Silky came up to me afterwards and was like, we haven't seen you before. I mean, we're talking, there's a lot of people at these nights, sort of 100. What's your name? Oh, if you are you interested in comedy? Have you done any? Come and meet other people. Come and meet this person. And from there, I did his course in Chapel Allerton, which is called Laugh at Leeds. They do improvisation, stand-up, musical comedy. And that course, I mean, we laughed, we cried, we opened up. Like, it. When I started doing comedy and met those guys and then expanded it, when people say, "Oh, I found my tribe," and I used to think, I have no idea what you're talking about when you say that. Like, I found my tribe, I found my people. 'Cause, I'm a much a people person, but it really, really clicked. It was like, this is what I enjoy. This is the buzz I get from it. These are the people, and there's always the odd ones that are big headed, or that you'll get at any walk in life. But as a majority, the comedians or people just on the local circuit around Leeds who do it as a hobby, who do it as a job, whatever it is, they are the weirdest bunch of legends you will find, especially the northern ones. They're all a bit messed up, but they do it, and you can tell this is our crutch to get through life. And if we can make other people laugh, we can, make it all a bit better. So yeah, that was sort of my screw it, I'm going to have a go at something, and just met wonderful people in a wonderful city, and really fell back in love with Leeds through that as well, through theatre and through comedy. It's a different place now to when I lived here in my teenage years. I don't always think I realised how lucky I was to grow up in such a vibrant city where with such a great community. It's great.
Yeah, I think sometimes it happens, doesn't it? The place where you live, you perhaps don't, I don't know, visit the tourist attractions, or, I don't know, appreciate things with sort of an outsider's eye. So it's great that you sort of had that chance, because you could have come back from London and kind of felt, oh, here I am back at home, and, get yourself stuck in a rut perhaps. But yeah, I think it's great to hear that you sort of discovered Leeds with new eyes.
Yeah, it's such a great city, and when I was like, I enjoyed it, but I just wanted to get out. As soon as I hit 18 or 17, want to get out, go down to London, especially doing theatre. You thought that's where it's at. I really didn't appreciate the amazing stuff that we had here. I do now, and it's even better now. Even for music and stuff, we've got First Direct Arena, all those things weren't here when I was there before.
Of course, yeah.
But when I got down to London, as much as I liked it, at first I was in Surrey. Number one, where are all your bars? I didn't realise that Leeds is like shop bar, shop bar, shop bar. Even on Briggate, you walk in all shops, but we're locals, we know, go down those alleyways, there's a bar down each one. I was like,
Yeah.
really outnumbered here for shops. They're like, that's what towns are supposed to be like. I was like, not my city, mate. My city's got a pub on every corner and in every alleyway that we can fit one in. We'll put one in. And then yeah, I realised that London, although it's great, it's many different Leedses put together.
Yeah.
Size of, you know what I mean? It's not one big
Mm.
city, and you don't get the community as much in London until you go out more to the suburbs. Whereas in Leeds, such a community feel, and they all overlap as well. You know, the comedy, and then I do bits of drama with Leeds Arts Centre, who I know you've had on before. And
Yeah.
then there's the musical side as well. I can't sing, so I'm not in Lidos, which is the musical version. We've just done 9 to 5 at the Carriage Works, but they all cross over and they're all friends. And I know this person. If you ever need anything, you just pop it out, and before you know it, someone's got back to you. It's and then you meet a lot of people at uni who've grown up in places going, there was nothing around me. We had one pub. You don't realise how lucky to be so close to a city that you were growing up. That, you know, it was amazing growing up. You know, we had spent a lot of my misspent youth in a pub called Joseph's Well, which isn't there anymore. It used to be at the bottom near where the hospital is,
Yeah.
and that used to have the best bands on. Like Kaiser Chiefs used to work behind the bar. Like it was just really yeah, it was just a really special place, was that, growing up and running around town and going into different bars and having everything quite close, but having the countryside on your doorstep as well. You know, you don't have to travel far to get greenery and beautiful parks or city, and then the smaller towns around it. But even Seven Arts, for example, Chapel Allerton, it was nothing like the gorgeous little artsy place it is now. It was nice, but these little areas and the investment that the people have put into it, that isn't just the local councils, it's the people who want to build these places from ground zero in some cases. It's amazing. It really, really is.
It really is, yeah. And so on that fateful night, you went along to Laugh at Leeds,
Yeah.
and you met Silky. And so how long was it after that before you actually performed yourself? And was it him who encouraged you to do that?
Yeah, so the first time I properly performed, at the end of his course, you have a graduation show at the Verve in Leeds,
Oh yeah.
usually. And yeah, it was that night, and it was quite a big audience. Although you just got to invite your friends, a lot of past graduates came, and you got to meet them and talk through them. And yeah, I can remember just before we went on stage, to make it equal. We become like family at that point. The little cohort that was on that course that time. I can remember he said, "Oh, to decide who goes up, we'll pull out Scrabble tiles, and it'll be in alphabetical order." Because he's like that, you know. Nothing's straightforward. We're not pulling straws or anything. And I can remember I got like X, and he knew I was going to be last. And you know, when your nerves are kicking up and you think it'd be good just to get on first, then I can enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Um, and I was last, and I was so it's a different kind of nervous than when I'd done acting, because I'd done bits of acting since I got back from Leeds with the LAC, and even quite big roles. But you've got a script that you're given. You've got a character that you're sort of hiding behind, in a way that you're becoming that
Exactly, yeah.
character. Um, you know, not only are you getting up there in front of people as yourself, quite raw, you're getting up there with stuff that you've written. So it's double whammy. It's like, you know, if they don't like any of it, then that's what I like about stand up, because I'm a bit of a control freak. I like that nobody else is relying on me. I can, you know, it's my vehicle that I can drive on my own. I can write my own stuff. I can practice my own stuff on different audiences. I can hone my own stuff, my sets and things, and I can perform my own stuff. And if it goes wrong, then there's no one else that if you're doing a play or something and you mess up the whole play, you've let other people down. I kind of like that it's just me, that I've let myself down if anything goes wrong. On the flip side of that, if it goes right, you take all the glory as well. So it's like,
And so you talked about being funny, in general and with your family and friends and everything. But I imagine sitting down to write material is quite different. Excuse me.
I think it can be. I think, and maybe it's just because I'm still in the early stages of sort of comedy, but I've always, since I decided that I thought I wanted to do stand up and just writing in general, like scripts and things like that, normally around comedy, I've always made notes. I don't sit down and write that much on a blank page. And everybody who does stand up, or a lot of arts people, to be honest, songwriters I know do it. Everybody's got a little notebook or a notes page on their phone that when they hear something that resonates or they think of something, they make that note of it. And my notes is a mess. I think it's like 200 pages, just random snippets that's like, is this funny? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's just collecting them together. And what I like to do is try and theme them together. So the last set that I wrote was around my best friend just had a baby, so around children and, me not necessarily wanting children, how that's still shocking in today's society, but making jokes about it. And again, sort of dealing with those issues of it's still quite a taboo, even though we've come on a lot in society for women not to want children, and the joke I make is, there are many reasons I don't want children. For instance, I like finances and I like my vagina, and I don't want anything to turn up and ruin both of them at the same time.
That's a very
From
good point.
from a completely selfish perspective. And do you know what puts me off having kids, children? Like, I love them to pieces, but it's a hard job. It's an underestimated. You're a mother, so you know how hard it can be, and we just go, oh, women can have it all now. No one ever says, I will take that away from you so that you can have it all. It's just, oh, look at you, all enabled. This is feminism. Now you can do your job on top of being a mum, on top of cleaning the house, on top of cooking. And I
Yeah,
think
here's another
women,
role.
yeah, exactly. Women are put, and sort of that's my way of thinking. And then it's just chipping away at that to find the funny as well. But yeah, a lot of the time I've got some idea of the route that I want to go down, and then I like to make it flow. But it's weird because like you say, it is different writing, sitting down and writing, especially comedy, because I think it was I think it was Phil Jupitus, I hope I'm not misquoting, that said, doing comedy and advancing in your comedy and your writing is like learning to play a musical instrument in public, because you can't sit in your room and write a very successful, definite, polished set, because what I find funny, the audience might not find funny. You have to try it out. So sometimes, I'm very lucky that I don't think I've yet had a set where I've completely bombed. That will come. I know that'll come. And I got to get my mind into that. It'll suck. But it will then tell me about that material that it's not right, or it's not right for that audience, or in that way,
Mm-hmm.
comedy's sort of a Venn diagram. I think you've got what you find funny, what other people find funny, and then you've got to find that intersection, which is both of those things. Because I can't get up and tell jokes that I know other people are like. Some people do amazing sort of crude sets where they're or antagonistic sets, or different sets of character, and I know that I wouldn't find it funny. So if I don't believe in it, it's not going to come across well if I don't find it funny myself. And if they don't find it funny, then there's no point me stood on stage with a mic
No,
talking to
absolutely.
strangers. So it's that where they both intersect. But I think as well, I grew up watching comedians. I grew up, I was the era proper when Peter Kay took off. Luckily was around when Victoria Wood was doing shows. Lily Sab, Friday nights and Saturday night TV was a big thing, and it was just comedy then a lot of the time. And then watching a lot of American comedies, Will and Grace, Friends. And you underestimate that that's learning. I know what rhythm is in jokes and comedy. It's not because I've sat down and studied it. I do study bits of comedy, but it's that it's been your love and you've been watching it for so long and watching hours on end of stand-up that a lot of it goes in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, I think. And I think I see what you mean. It's kind of like, people say that comedy's all timing, don't they? But obviously, if you're watching brilliantly comedically scripted TV series, or like you said, stand up, all those names that you mentioned on Friday and Saturday nights when you were growing up, of course you're taking all that in, aren't you? You're learning all the way along.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is just so strange as well that you never know. Like, that's the only bit that I've had to relinquish control. And as a control freak, is that you can plan, you can sit down and write a bit of a joke. Mine aren't one-off liners, and that's what I hate. Is if I tell anyone I do comedy, they go tell us a joke, and I
Oh
don't have
yeah,
ready
that's horrible.
formatted jokes. I'm more of I'll get on stage and I'll rant, or I'll talk about something, and it helps me as well because I'm never waiting for the laugh. If it comes, it's good, but if not, I don't have that awkward moment because I'm
Yeah.
going to carry on anyway. Um, but you'll spend ages working on a bit, and you'll even try it out just when you're chatting with your friends and the topic comes up. You won't say this is my bit, but you'll say it to them and see their reaction, and you think, this is gold. This is gold. You'll say it, you'll get a good laugh, and then you'll have written something which is literally just a segue to the next thing you want to talk about, and it kills. Like, one example, I wrote a Christmas set about the time between Christmas and New Year,
Yeah.
which I called the holiday perineum because you don't exactly know what you're doing with it, but you just know it feels good, and I wrote a bit about New Year and the pressure around there, and a true story, and most of my stuff is true because I think it becomes more authentic then. But my friend said very drunkenly, "My New Year's resolution is to climb Everest to one of the base camps. Do you want to do it with me?" And I was like, "Hell no! Like, why would I want to do that?" Um, like I won't do anything at all where I have to pass the dead bodies of people who've tried to do it before me. Call me crazy. It's just not something that I'm gonna do. And I wrote this whole bit about that and about the top being and then I needed a bit to segue into the next section. On the night, I literally just randomly said, and anyway, she did do it. I didn't, but if I ever want to, it'll be great to see her body again. And it literally was just a flippant remark, and that got the biggest laugh the whole night. It was like you never know, you never ever know, and you can do the same show another night to another audience, and you'll get different laughs in different places. Um, it's such a weird beast of its own, but that's why I love it. I think.
Do you think the thing about the different laughs is just because it's a room of sort of individual people who make up sort of a cohort, or have you been doing it long enough and in enough places to be able to sort of say, this venue in general, this material would work there? Do you know what I mean? Are you able to do that, or is it not that simple?
No, I think I'm getting there. I think the best comedians can do that. I know that one of my Bible podcasts, other than Light and Leads, obviously, is Comedian's Comedian, where a comedian interviews comedians. How many times can I say comedians? Interviews them on their processes and on their history, on their worst sets, on their best sets, and these are very successful ones. And I can remember Sarah Milligan, who is a big heroine of mine, saying about that that's what she wanted. She knew she could write jokes, but she wanted to get to a point where she could walk into any audience and either start bombing and turn it around or judge what the audience is finding funny as she goes. And I think that's the gold star you want to get to. I'm I'm getting there, and it is different venues mostly for me. I'm not quite there on the audience, but I can kind of gather where they are. So, you know, if you're doing the Verve in Leeds, which is every Tuesday, one of the longest running nights, they have new material nights in the basement. It's a great little space. But I know that a lot of people will either be comedians trying stuff out there or make up the audience, or students and younger people. So, you know, I know that throwing a few more swear words or just adapt some jokes to that. But I know that if I go and do sort of a working men's club, some of the jokes they'll want we want relatability to us. So if I was telling jokes that students would understand and about musicians or anything like that, they're just going to sit there and be like, no, like it's it's one of those things. I think it's hard sometimes because I think sometimes you start at a little disadvantage as a female comedian.
Right, yeah. How do
Yeah.
you feel about that whole ridiculousness?
I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it? It's that
I
you
think
know,
it's just that I think it's just that sexism seeps into every aspect of life in general. You know what I mean? Like it's just I can't remember I think I'm listening to an audiobook by Bridget Christie, who's amazing. And
right.
she has a section in that just, I mean, she just skewers it so well, and like she sort of takes her indignation and her anger and just turns that into something that's just so hilarious. And that I really love that because I kind of feel like it's turning the weapon on themselves, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's what comedy does, isn't it? It shines a light on stuff, or you tell a story where you're the butt of the joke, but actually you're judging the people outside. You know, you always want to be the fall guy. You don't want to make anyone feel bad or anything like that. You want to put it all on yourself. But yeah, I think it's hard because I've always struggled from imposter syndrome in every aspect of my life. But the more I learn about the imposter syndrome, the more I realize it's sort of a societal output of patriarchy. It's that a lot of men who get up there don't have the same imposter syndrome that I have because it's just part of being female. I think that you don't always feel good enough, and it is hard. I mean, to be honest, there are benefits of being female because a lot of, particularly the Leeds scene that I've experienced, really want to bring equality into it. There's some amazing Leeds based people with physical disabilities, mental disabilities who are smashing the local scene, women, LGBTQA plus. They want a mix of diversity. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. I know that Leeds Comedy Project at the Head Row have got one of my friends is blind, and he's a blind comedian, and they're doing a disability night there. And you know, it that's what I mean about it being a great tool as well, because he'll get up and say the stuff that you don't know whether you should laugh at or not, but because he's saying it and he's blind, you know, you can laugh, and
Yeah.
it puts everyone at ease and educates people around different disabilities. But you know, being around Leeds sometimes, although now and again you think I'm only here because I'm the token female, it does give you that opportunity. There's not many nights where it'll be all males. It is a smaller circle, is the female comedian sort of circuit. But I found it quite welcoming. One of the ones that I really loved is International Women's Day. We did an all female night at the Verve, and it was just so much fun, and to see some of the women at the top of their game. And yeah, it's you're so used to a sausage fest that to be part of a clam bake was just like awesome times. Like honestly, it was great, and I think you do start. It's that disadvantage though, because I think you do not feel a collective sigh, and maybe it's in my head, but you feel like you start a bit behind the starting line when you come on, whereas men start on the starting lines. Sometimes you've got to do a few bits at the beginning to put them at ease. And I am quite a sweary person. I don't like it, but making a bit of a stupid boyish joke with a swear word in it, I'll put all the men go, oh, okay, she's not going to talk about her vagina too much. It's okay. Like, relax, lads, relax. We're good. But then I think it's hard because I don't know, when I went to go and see some quite big female comedians when I was on that course down in Brighton, and you should be able to make jokes about whatever you want, but you got to come about it, if it's not something that the audience can relate to, you got to come about it from a different angle. But they made just quite blatant, brilliant sets, absolutely brilliant sets. But towards the end, they made quite in-depth, explicit jokes about going for your smear. Now, I don't find that a funny experience. They managed to find some funny in it, but you could see they lost half the audience. And that's not necessarily men going, I don't want to hear about this. It's men not being able to relate to it. If you could, you've got to, if you're going to do a joke like that, for me, and I talk like I'm an expert, but for me, you've got to say to men, I'm going to explain to you what it's like, and then maybe use an analogy that's hilarious to pull it in rather than talk explicitly
Yeah.
about it. And I'll judge men the same way. If they're going to, talk about prostate exams, I don't want to hear more explicitly in the jokes. I don't want to hear crude jokes because you've sort of lost me as a woman on that. But if you can tell me, ladies, to get a prostate exam, it's like this, and put a hilarious analogy with it, and these tenuous, beautiful links together that are funny, I think that's half of it. And I do like sort of, I guess, challenging and speaking up and making fun of the inequalities that go on. In everything I do, I try and pull a women's point of view or historic stupid thing between it. Like when they sent Sally, can't remember her last name, one of the first female astronauts was going to space for 4 days, and they sent her with 300 tampons because they didn't. It was men who planned the bag, and they didn't know what she'd need. And it's like, wow, you really don't know women, do you? And then, all this money they could have done to get. She had a spacesuit that didn't even fit her. Could have padded it with the tampons. Don't know if they thought of that. The spacesuit that was too big for her, and instead of thinking, what, this is important, we need to put the money into a new spacesuit, they put the money into space makeup.
Oh
Because,
my
yeah,
God.
because they'll send up women, but they won't send up ugly. Like, it's like, what is going through their minds? But, that's something that everybody can find funny and stupid and historic, but also it's saying men didn't do good in the past, men do better, and highlighting this amazing woman who was one of the first. I think it was actually a Russian woman, the first woman. She was the first American woman in space. But
Yeah, I know what you mean, because the way that you've just described it there, you're not, because at the end of the day, well, if you're talking about sort of how people define themselves, in a room, you're going to have basically a 50-50 split, if people are binary. And you don't really want to be excluding half of the people in the room. Like, that's not a great thing to do, is it? You know what I mean? And I don't think that is from, occasionally women comedians, especially in the 80s and stuff, could be accused of kind of man bashing. But I think that, like you say, that you have to find a way to bring out the funny without excluding half of the people that you're telling the joke to.
exactly. And men do it, and men still do it, and not in a horrible way, but men will do the, oh, my girlfriend's going to B&M and what she comes back with and candles and all this shit. He's saying it's stupid what she gets, but also the women are going, I do that. I buy shitloads of candles from B&M and stuff, and like I used to come back with £300 worth of stuff when I only went for like fly spray. So it's just finding those ways. I think, yeah, I just never want to. Even with the kid bit that I was mentioned last time, I never want to offend anyone, and I never want to hurt anyone in the audience. So, you know, when I was saying about me not wanting having kids and things like that, and I tried to do it in the most sensitive way so that if there's anyone who can't have or is struggling in the audience, that I don't want anyone in their own head while I'm doing this. I want to, while I'm on stage, I want to make sure that they're laughing at me and they're not, just none of it's offensive. Never want anyone to be sat in the crowd just her. I'm there to provide happiness. And there are those comics that are happy to be divisive, or go on, live on the edge. And some of them, not very successful ones who don't last long on the circuit, are downright offensive.
Yeah.
which is, it wouldn't be my style anyway. There are some that are great at being offensive but on the edge of it, or being offensive but to people who are horrible people that we know, who do terrible things. But it's just finding that line, isn't it, of being funny, being kind,
Yeah,
and
and the thing
trying to
is,
have a message.
you might be there with your sort of stand-up hat on, but you're also still a human being, aren't you? And I agree with you. I wouldn't like the thought of, I would hate the thought that anything you've ever said, makes someone go away and feel terrible. And like you say, it's not the desired outcome, is it?
No, not at all. I yeah, I like tapping into people's sort of relatability as well. I once did one show, and it was my first show where I saw this, and laughs are amazing. Don't get me wrong. That's what we do it for. Um, but I made a couple of jokes, and I can't even remember what it was. I think it was about how when you go through security at the airport, all the rules of society drop away. You like pint and curry at 7 a.m. Like holiday starts now, and other bits around it to make a bit. But a few times since then I've had this, but seeing two people in the audience sort of look at each other and nod or nudge each other, that I can have a laugh and relatability. And you know, a lot of people do it about mental health now, because I think nobody really talks or shows about it. So when you say, oh, I was supposed to be working, but I actually took a 3 hour nap and woke up and wondered what day it is, something like that, and people go, oh my God, I do that, but I don't tell anyone. Oh my God, I'm like that, but I don't. And it's that, for a second, feeling joined up together, that you can all laugh and go, isn't that absurd that we all do that, or that those things happen. But yeah, I'd really love, and I've been working on doing a bit on sort of death, which is a hard bit to do it about, because you never want to offend anyone. But obviously, I lost my brother to suicide. I lost my other younger brother in a bike accident, and although it's not funny, it's tragic, it's horrible, and don't get me wrong, I've spent many years sort of grieving over that. But how do I not make it funny and laugh at it? How do I make it relatable and talk about the things that I experienced through that?
Mm.
One of the best responses I ever got from someone, and I talk about it a lot, and I really don't like sympathy. It makes me feel weak, and I had to get used to that, because if you want to talk about it, people are going to have sympathy for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I once said to someone, I lost my two. We lost my two younger brothers, and they just said, where? Like, we'd just forgotten about them, and my parents were the shittest parents ever, and we were just like, one day we'll just remember, oh, we left him at Harewood House, like, you know what I mean? Or we had to have another brother because we lost the first one, and then they lost that one. Like, we were like, no, that's it.
Yeah, like if we knew that, we wouldn't have lost them.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's just always humour in stuff. Or I hate flowers. When people buy you flowers when someone's died, because it's like giving me a terminally ill hamster. It's like, we know that you're in a bad way, we know you missed something, but here's something that we've ripped from it being alive in the ground. You have to work at it to keep it alive. You have to give it water, put it in a vase, and then while you're grieving, you're just going to watch it die. And I always think, what a stupid, messed up thing that we send to people when someone's died. Here's a living thing that you can watch. It's like, yeah, here's a terminally ill hamster. You have to look after it. It's going to die in the end, but I'm sorry for your loss. Do you know what? It's just things like that to me seem a bit absurd, and some other people, when I tell them, go, that you're right. That is like stupid.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Because I think things like that, like you say, that people can relate to, it helps, form sense of connections, which is really what we're all about, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's such a tool, is comedy and humor, that's got me through stuff. Yeah, even in the darkest of moments, even when you feel bad for laughing, and you're so delirious that you're laughing because you're either going to laugh or cry, it's important to get you through life. It's a good crutch for me personally.
Completely agree. And if people wanted to come along and see you, Vic, where would they be best finding you?
Um, Normally in my garden at this time of year, drinking wine, telling jokes to myself and the local cats. But in my social medias, which I will pop along to you, I do advertise when I'm where I'm on there.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I haven't got anything lined up at the moment because annoyingly, proper adult life has got in the way of
Oh,
new
it's so
jobs.
boring, isn't it?
I know, isn't it? And so I've got to like be a grown up and be a banker and all this stuff. But and sometimes I feel a lot of pressure around that. I haven't done a gig in a while, or I have recently, but I haven't got many lined up. What am I going to do? Like maybe I'll drop off and people won't care. But you've got to look after your mental health first. So I
You
can't do
absolutely do.
everything. I've
Yeah.
had to realise that, and so at the moment I haven't got anything lined up, but there will be soon. But on my socials, you'll be able to see there as well.
Excellent. So we could just watch this space.
Yes, definitely.
Now, Vic, you said that you lived in Leeds and then you went to university to London and then you've come back to Leeds. So that
Mhm.
means that you are in the perfect position to answer the three questions that I ask every guest. The
Brilliant.
first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
I really did think on this for quite a long time because there's so much, and I know people say people, and that's one of the main things, the people and the community. But I think for me, what umbrellas it all is variety. I think that you've got countryside, you've got city, you've got towns, you've got more arty places, you've got posh places, all these little areas that are completely different. There's no way you can't find something, whatever mood you're in Leeds. And it's the same with the people, such a variety of people, but underneath a good white rose Yorkshire heart that they all have in common. And it's just that variety for me.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, actually, and I completely agree. And if you had to choose something not so great, what would you go for?
I would go for transport. I I moved from London and I didn't realise how lucky I was with the train. I used to moan when a tube would be 5 minutes rather than two. And then you come up here and I know that they're putting money into it. And I think it's really important, obviously, because of the climate crisis and sustainability. I'm having to get a car now I've moved up here. I don't even have a driving license. I'm doing it now because when I was in London, the infrastructure was so good that I didn't need it. And I know that they're working on that. And, I think it is really, really important because everybody bikes down south. You can't do that up here unless you're one of the Brownlee brothers because the hills everywhere and it's not easy here.
No, it's not flat, is it? It's not York.
No, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, why don't you just get a bike? All my friends from other places go. And I go, you try doing one hill on a bike here and then tell me when you're in hospital and I'll come and see you. Like,
Oh, when you get your medal.
exactly.
And if somebody had been a resident of Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you'd consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Um, oh, it's a hard one because I didn't know where to go with this because hidden gem is,
I know
um,
it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of places, but the thing is, we don't know who's listening, so they might
yeah,
have heard of it, they might not have done. So I
that's
think just
true.
go for what you really like.
So I think I've got two that have become really regulars too. So one is Seven Arts in Chapel Allerton.
Yeah.
It is a theatre space. They do music. They've always got something going on, and the vibe in there. Oh God, look at me! Such so down with the kids. I can vibe in there is amazing. Um, the bar staff are lovely. You can just sit down and talk with people around you. It's got a very artsy feel, but not too artsy that if that's not your thing, you'll feel left out. And it's got such a great performance space. And obviously, Silky does his monthly. Last Wednesday of every month, he does his show there, and he's my comedy uncle. Like you have drag mothers. I'm House of Silky. He's my comedy uncle. I think the other one just to pop in there as well is a place in Meanwood called Terminus.
Okay, yeah.
And they've only just started because we started going there for our board games Sundays now and again. It's got its own little brewery. It's just off the main. You have to sort of go up an alleyway and you think, where am I being led? Am I going to get murdered? And then you realise, no, it's a really nice place. They've just knocked down a wall upstairs, so it's a really big room, but they've got board games around. They're happy to let you try the local beers and, chat with you, and just a warm, friendly area. Anywhere that says no dogs on the door, I can't not be a gem for me. But when you go in on a Sunday, on a cold Sunday, and there's dogs around and there's warm cider and, you know, just that feel, you don't get that in other places that I've been to.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I've not been there, so I must put it on my ever expanding list of things to do in Leeds. That sounds great. I totally get what you mean. Board games, dogs, alcohol sounds perfect.
Exactly. What more does a woman want?
And what will you be doing with the rest of your evening?
Rest of my evening, I finished one job today, so I had all my leave-in stuff. So I am going to crack open a bottle of wine and sit in the garden and just chill out. This week has been mental. You know, when you just need a time to do absolutely nothing and maybe be a giant child and play on my Nintendo Switch, because I'm cool like that and grown.
That sounds absolutely perfect. You've got to do what you need to do to keep yourself on an even keel.
Exactly. You do you.
Thank you so much for speaking to me, Vic. And I really hope to come and see you soon. I'll be keeping an eye on your social media, and I'll put lots of links so people can follow and keep up as well.
Brilliant. An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm sure you'll agree that it was really interesting, the chat that I had with Vic. I'm really going to make an effort to get myself to go and see one of her gigs because they sound fantastic. If you're interested, you can check the links in the podcast notes to things that Vic mentioned, like Laugh at Leeds, a stand-up comedy course, and lots of other different things that are very interesting. The track featured on this week's episode is I Don't Want to Live Without You. It's by Lorenzo Gabanizza and Jeff Christie, and it's a really cracking track. I think you're going to enjoy it. Have a great week, Leeds, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Forever when you left me standing here alone. Darkness is all around me. The only sound is my lonely breaking heart. I don't wanna live without you. Is a never-ending moment. There is the use to tell ya how I try to be the man you need, but now you're far away, girl, and my dreams have gone away with you. That's the only thing I need. Tell me just the two of us.